time. The the bad news today is that Abby Chapman's out and about traveling today and is not able to host this. And the bad news is that I'm your host. The good news is that I'm not the presenter. So we have we have a couple people here on staff. We have Austin Sims. She's from the Main Street of Madison. It is called Madison Main Street. Is that where you're at? And we have Missy, and I'll always pronounce your last name wrong, but I think it's Krulik.
You got
with
it.
the Heart of Lebanon. I love all the main streets. These are two that I probably go to a lot, and I appreciate the work that they've done. And they're going to talk about the theme today, and this is going to be an open conversation among all of you, but asking them questions of how they build their partnerships with their municipalities and other community organizations. If you want to introduce yourselves and maybe talk a little bit how vital the Main Street connection is with your other organizations, and take a couple minutes of that. And then we're just going to open it up after that. Let a couple people in here. After that, we're going to open it up to questions. Just place your questions in the chat. And I'd also like at some point for Austin and Missy to give their contact information if anybody wants to follow up. So I'll leave it to you. I'll turn off my camera and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Awesome. Who wants to
One
go
thing I
first?
will say, I should tell you, is that this meeting is being recorded. Have to be.
You go first, Missy. Go ahead.
Oh, lovely. Thanks, Austin. Okay. This is Missy Krulik, of course, with the Heart of Lebanon. I am the executive director on staff. And we've been a Main Street organization since 2016. But I will tell you that we had several revitalization groups prior to the Heart of Lebanon, at least two that failed. And I'll tell you why I believe they failed. And I was actually on one. I was a store owner at the time. It was called Lebanon Vitalization Inc. And I was on the group at the time when it failed, unfortunately. And it was because we could not seem to get any cooperation at the city level. We just really had a hard time working with the city level. They didn't support anything that we wanted to do. And it was just really frustrating as a group. And we kind of disbanded after we felt like we just worked and couldn't get anything done. And so when this group formed in 2016, I no longer owned a store in the downtown and was just kind of a private residence. And so I kind of stayed back a little bit to kind of see if this one was going to be viable. And they did become an Indiana Main Street, which was really exciting. And so I would say it took me about 3 years into the organization to become involved. I'm a downtown resident, so I just was kind of watching their progress and seeing and how it was going, and kind of came on board as a volunteer and got involved in some of their events. And I could see that they had city support, that the city was working closely with the organization, and had a vested interest in what they were doing. Our downtown did go through an $11 million renovation in 2018. So that really helped. That really showed that the city was invested in what was happening in our downtown. So so that was great that this organization, the Heart of Lebanon, had city support, and I think it was really vital. I don't think that we gained. I think it was still really hard, even though the city supported the downtown. We get some of our money through the Redevelopment Commission, and because we are part of a TIF district. And every time we would go to ask for money from the RDC, they'd either make us come back 2 and 3 times to give them more information. They were really hesitant about giving us money. Um, and so we just, kept at it. We became a nationally accredited, so I think that really helped them. And then also, we constantly went back with quarterly updates on what we were doing, just to kind of prove that we were moving forward and making good progress. So that really helped us on that front, gains the respect of our RDC members. And actually, this year, when I went to go ask for funding, they gave me more than what I asked for. So, so it's just constantly reminding them what you're doing is really important. But since then, we've gained the respect of other organizations in the downtown, like the Boone County EDC. We work closely with them. We've had a lot of changeover in the Boone County Chamber as far as their executive directors. So we've constantly had to work on that relationship. And when a new director comes in, I meet with them, I tell them what Main Street is doing in the downtown, and they are also positioned in our downtown, so they're part of our district. And I think an important thing with them is just to say, we're not in competition with you. We are not a membership based. That's your thing, that's not our thing. And we can both work together to make our downtown stronger. So I really have to just constantly tell them that, remind them that we're not in competition. And also I give them leads like, hey, this business in my district is not a chamber member. If they partner with me on an event, I say, why don't you make contact with that business so you can develop a relationship with them regarding the event. So that's just one thing that we kind of help them grow their membership, and then they help us with events, and then also providing vital resources to the businesses.
Missy, do you question for you? When you've gone back and requested for funding here and there, have you brought measurables, or have they ever asked you for ways to show your growth or to prove upon your last request, this is what we've been able to complete, this is what we've been able to accomplish, this is what we're still working on? How has that conversation, like as you've been trying to build trust between some of those partners and funders, how has that looked?
Yeah, so with the RDC, we doing those quarterly updates. We talk about what we did during that quarter, what maybe events we did, what special initiatives we did, and yeah, we try to bring them data, how many community members attended the events, how the businesses did during the events, if it was a positive impact on their sales and their business. So just constantly trying to throw out data to them about what we were doing and the success we were having. And in all honesty, those RDC members were watching us. So they were kind of seeing, did the downtown, were we bringing in businesses? Were people more, what was the I would say impression of the city citizens on what was happening downtown. In Lebanon, we've had years and years and years of community apathy. We're kind of the last one to develop, and resisting development quite a bit. So, it's just instead of hearing, there's nothing to do downtown, there's no businesses downtown, why would I go downtown? the RDC members were hearing things like, oh, I was downtown on Friday and it was so great to see people out enjoying the restaurants or the events, with new businesses wanting to set up in our downtown. They're going out to eat and they're seeing these new businesses, so they were keeping an eye on what we were doing as well. Because you could tell when I first went to them in funding, when I started as the executive director, you could tell by the looks on their faces that they were like, yeah, we don't really trust that you're going to be great stewards of our money. So we really had to prove that to them, and so they were keeping a close eye on us.
How has that, like, I think it's really interesting that you said the organization tried to be established multiple times, and had failed attempts, because I think that's important. How do you think, or what kind of advice would you have for other main streets that are maybe trying to build those relationships and they failed? How did you keep going, or how did the committee and organization at that time keep going?
Yeah, I just believing in the Main Street method. I think that's really, really important. Learning what Main Street has to offer and bringing those resources to your community. I'm a big Main Street cheerleader. I think it's a great program, and just not having it in the other revitalization groups, I can see how vital it is. And just they provide so much education and information that we can take back to those stakeholders and just let them know that this is why we're important in your community and this is why you should support us. I think that, and I know that our current city government gets that. They're really vested in what's happening downtown, and we've been constantly trying to prove to them as why supporting the downtown is so important, and just constantly drilling that and putting that out there that when people come to our community, they drive through the downtown, and if they see a dead and dying downtown, they're going to think this isn't a great place to live or a great place to put my business. But if they see a thriving downtown and they see a beautiful downtown and a well-maintained downtown, they're going to say, wow, this must be a great place to live. These people take great pride in their community. Maybe this is where I want to place my business. If not in the downtown, in Lebanon, this is a place that they might want to be. And so I constantly put that out there as to why it's important to support the downtown Main Street organization. So
just want to remind everybody, thank you so much. I don't want to interrupt here, but we did have some late arrivals. Because I didn't set up the meeting, I can't turn on anybody else's microphones. They've been muted, and I can't unmute because it's in the original setup. However, put your questions. We encourage you to put your questions in the chat. This is going very well, and we'll be able to ask those questions as we go.
Missy,
so far, we have no questions. So,
Missy, have you had any like unexpected or unanticipated partnerships that you've developed, that the Heart of Lebanon has developed with?
Of course, we have a great partnership with the Boone County Economic Development Corporation. EDC is what I always say. So we have a great partnership with them. They're usually the front lines in bringing small businesses into our downtown, and knowing what people come to them and say, I want to start this business, or I want to bring this business to Lebanon. Where should I look for property? So they are definitely a great partnership. We recently, we also partner with the chamber. I told you that we do quarterly strolls. And so the Boone County Chamber is a great partner. in our ornament stroll that we do on Small Business Saturday. And so we have that partnership there. And then we like to reach out. Getting volunteers for your events is sometimes very, very hard. And so we reach out to nonprofit organizations and say, hey, would you be interested in helping us with this event? And we actually put that into our budget because normally we give volunteer gifts. We may give a gift card to a downtown business or something like that. So, sometimes we partner with other nonprofit organizations at our events they volunteer, and then we give a portion of the proceeds to that organization. So that's really helped us in securing volunteers that we normally would not be able to get. One recently was the Salvation Army of Moon County. They helped us come and move barricades for an event. So by helping us with our event and our organization, we were able to help them, which also helps the community. So that was one. And we've done it with several other nonprofit groups as well. So
not only working together with other organizations, sometimes it becomes blurred who is who. And how do you differentiate your Main Street organization from other organizations? How do you promote yourselves?
Well, with us, we get confused with the city a lot, which, the city supports us. And so everybody thinks, oh, that's the city putting on the event. And we're always putting on our logo. We're always saying the heart. It's happening in the heart. And actually the community is really responded to that, and now most of them call downtown Lebanon the heart, or when you refer to the heart, they know exactly where you're talking about. And so one thing about that is anybody who does an event in the downtown, so say the city comes and does a concert or something, we get thanked for it because they think that anything that happens in the downtown is part of our organization's doing. So sometimes that's good. Sometimes that's, could not be good if the event didn't go well, but we haven't had that. And we haven't had that instance yet. It's usually just people are excited to have something going on in the downtown. And so that's the only blurry lines that we get is are you the city? Are you part of the city? Or, the Main Street organization.
How about you, Austin? Have you had those situations too?
Yeah, lots of times. Usually more good, praise for something than anything else. But I wanted to back up too and just say that I'm Austin with Madison Main Street, and we were one of 3 pilot communities selected back in the day to help establish the Main Street program by the National Trust. And so next year will be 45 years for us, which is exciting. And I've been with Madison, which is crazy. Yeah. I've been with Madison Main Street for almost 4 years. So starting to finally see some patterns and things, giving everything some time. So I just wanted to throw that out there because of this topic, like partnerships and things that I think that can be really stressful. And sometimes it can be a burden that you're trying to maintain relationships between different partners and things in your community. And it can put a lot of stress as an executive director to try and maintain relationships and stay in the middle of things. So I just wanted to put that out there. But yeah, I would say a lot of times we get confused with the city. The city gets confused with what we do. People sometimes get frustrated. They think, oh, well, I'll just go to City Hall and tell them to fix what Main Street's doing. But we've gotten a really good partnership developed over the last few years with them. They usually have our back, and we try and be supportive as much as we can for the city also. So I don't know, do you want me to keep going and talk more about other aspects of partnerships, or?
Yeah, I think there's several things that we want to address, is how do you have a seat at the table when the city's making decisions that impact what happens in your area, and how do you work through some of the conflicts, because there are conflicts and misunderstandings, and discuss a little bit about that.
I think it's been really difficult the first few years with Main Street to reestablish a relationship with our city and Madison specifically. One, previously, I was the fourth director in 4 years, almost, coming in, it was so a lot of turnover, left a lot of gaps, no follow through, and not to anyone's individual fault. That's just how things were in their lives in the place of the organization. So coming in, there was a lot of opportunity for me and the Main Street board to try and regain some of those relationships and partnerships. I think specifically with our municipality, timing played a huge role in that. Unfortunately, our Mayor Damon Welch, he passed away right before I took this job, unexpectedly. And the city had to quickly come up with a plan. We had an interim mayor, and then our current mayor, Mayor Bob, was eventually elected into office. So that was also right before COVID. And so having new leadership, a new director with our Main Street, new staff, and other things, that all of that together kind of forced us all to sit down and be like, what are we doing? How can we work together? What do you do? What do I do? So that was really helpful. I don't know if you had a similar instance, Missy. I'm not sure how long you've been with Heart of Lebanon, but COVID played a huge role in just timing also of being able to work with new administration and new staff helped to regain a lot of relationships.
Yeah, we've been great with this downtown revitalization. The city's really been on board. Something that we've done recently, that I started because I felt like we were all working in silos, and I'd find out about somebody who had gone to the city or somebody had gone to the EDC, and I'm like, oh, I I didn't know that I was working on the same thing. And so I felt like we were spinning our wheels because we were all working independently. So in May I started a monthly meeting every Thursday morning at 9 a.m. We come together, so the mayor, the planning department, the city engineer, the city communications director, and a representative from the Boone County EDC. We all come together in a meeting and we talk about, what's happening, who's come to see, because a lot of times you'll find that, a business that wants to come into town, they can either some will go to the EDC, some will go to the mayor's office, some will go to the planning department, some will come to me. And so we can just get all on the same page about like what businesses may have approached each one of us that wants to come to our city, and where we can maybe find a place for them downtown. And then also developers. We're having a lot of development going on now with the LEAP district, and developers coming in town and having an interest. And so the developers will usually go right to the planning department, which would impact my buildings and businesses in my district. So that's a way for us just to all be on the same page about what's happening. So that's just kind of how we do it, is that standing monthly meeting of let's get together, and discuss about what happened last month in the district.
We have one question in chat right now. This could go to either of you, but any suggestions for having downtown events when most of the downtown is closed or aren't interested in participating in your events?
I'll start. I think that's a good question, because sometimes it happens because everybody has different ideas about what should happen, and everyone has different ideas about what would be best for your community and their business hours. I think that you can start small. We just had a board meeting last night and we were critiquing ourselves, Madison Main Street, that sometimes we get a little too up here. We think so large, you know, if we're going to do this, we're going to go 110. But then sometimes it's like, you know, why not start small? This doesn't have to be a whole thing yet. Let's just, you know, if it's depending on the event, like just starting small and getting a few of those organic things moving, you know, sometimes that fear of missing out will start to build up and you'll gain some more support depending on the event. So that's what I would suggest, is don't forget to start small, and that's okay.
For us, I think it's just we do a lot of different things that maybe involve different businesses. So some businesses or some events that we do, like a Friday night car cruising, you know, a lot of the businesses might be closed, but yet our restaurants would be open. So it impacts them. So we find that, you know, we're helping a certain type of business during that event. But like we do, like I said, we do quarterly strolls. We've done a cookie stroll, a taffy stroll, an ornament stroll. We're getting ready to do a fall stroll, and we've done one other one, but I can't think of that one right now. But that is the strolls are basically, they come to our office, get a map of all the locations that they can pick up their item, whether it be a cookie or a couple pieces of taffy. And then they go to those businesses. We've had complaints with the businesses. Maybe we sell 100 tickets. So to the event, so they're like, oh, that's too many people at once in our store, and so we kind of laugh about that. But okay, sorry. Or it could be, well, they come in and they just want their item, but they don't shop. So we kind of stress to our businesses that this is an event to get people to your door. So they get there to your door, they get in your door, and then it's your job to get them to come back later. Maybe give them a gift certificate that they can spend next week, or a coupon, or just advertise a special sale you're having, that's going on. It's your job to get them to come back. We're just getting them to your door. So that's a way that we kind of involve the businesses that maybe aren't open on a Friday night. So we do that on a Saturday morning when they might be open. So just trying to do different events that cater to, I guess, different times and different businesses. So you kind of got to get creative.
I try to explain to our local merchants that the Main Street and the other groups advertise how you treat people and your perception as they come into your shop is the real marketing impact that has to happen. But Missy here, we have a question specifically to you, and I think I know the answer, but it comes from Barbara, and both of you, it's in the chat, said you said the city originally didn't buy into what you were doing. Barbara lives in a small city, has an entire administration, a large portion of the community that believes that demolition of our historic structures is the way to revitalization, even though the city has commissioned 2 separate reports by outside organizations. How do you get your administration to change their thinking on the benefit of preservation and restoration of your downtown structures? Also, we are a poor community, and our Main Street organization does not receive any outside funding. I think both of you have historic preservation ordinances in place. I know that, in fact, I know you do. So we don't in the town I live in, and we've had some parking lots that were generated through destruction of probably the oldest home in town and a couple things like that that I didn't particularly care for. But How do you work those relationships between the merchants wanting parking or wanting space and not liking that ugly building? And it's a little different probably because of your ordinances protect you there, but were those always in place?
I can say that I wasn't really around when those were first implemented. That was prior to Austin, I think, even being born. But we're very lucky that we have that, and that our city takes that really seriously. That's just the benefit of that. I think if you don't have that, though, that's where the partnerships really come in line. You know, relying on Indiana Main Street to even come down and host preservation or design workshop meetings to help relay that information to your local partners. If you have a local historic society or historic corporation, those partnerships are really valuable because you can work together to help preserve what you can preserve. There's actually I can't remember their name right now, but they were at last year's National Main Street Conference, I think, or it was the year prior. And he talked about the formula of the impact businesses can receive, positive impact about being in a historic district, the historic facade, maintaining or improving it, and how it can directly impact your sales. So it's finding those partnerships within the Main Street network that can help you also. I would say look into a lot of those because there's grants out there that help save these buildings too. So it's just getting the right people behind you to help do that.
For us, we have, you know, like I said, we have some development that's wanting to happen in our downtown because of the LEAP project that's coming to Lebanon, and we just had Eli Lilly announce, and they're actually building in Lebanon. So we're having a lot of interest, and so we have a corner that's at the corner of a state road, so 39 and 32. And right now there's a building that sits on the corner that's from the 70s, and then we also have a standalone historic building. And so in a recent meeting, one of those meetings I told you about that I have with the city, it came to I had already knew that the property was for sale. And so in talking with those with the city, you know, there's lots of developers that are interested in getting the property. And the common theme I kept hearing from the city was the elimination of that historic building to build something new on that corner. And so I was like, ooh, I need to do something about this. And so I went to our local library and I asked our historian if he would research the building for me, because, you know, I felt like this was something that needed to be done soon. And if I left it up to me getting it done, it would just be another thing on my plate. So I utilized those resources that were in our community. And I recently got the report on the building. And the building was actually constructed by James Bragg, and he was a captain in the Civil War. And so, and I got online and I started looking at that, of all the information about James Bragg, and his diary is actually published online. They found his diary, transcribed it, and it's part of the information that you can find on the 40th Volunteer Indiana Infantry. And so that's really special that his diary is there for everyone to see. So I took this information, I sent it to the mayor, the city planning, the interested parties, and said, look, this building is important to the history of our city. The man who built it, James Bragg, also was the mason for our third courthouse. We're now on our fourth courthouse, but the third courthouse that was built, he was the actual mason. So, you know, just finding out that history on the building, and we're lucky. This one has some big historical significance that I think that I can really push that this building needs to be saved for this reason. And I think I can get the community behind it as well. So, and I'm not trying to make any enemies, you know, in doing that. But I think it's important. And as Main Street, we feel that our historic preservation of these buildings is important. And so you got to kind of pull out all the tools that you can in your toolkit to have that done. And we also have a historic preservation commission and ordinances, but buildings have been torn down with the historic preservation commission in place. So that doesn't necessarily kind of save your building sometimes. So I like to pull at heartstrings. And so doing that historical research and finding out about those buildings and figuring out that historical significance that they are to your community can be really important.
I want to see that.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to add to like the point about budget. We have an upcoming loft tour event and with Madison Main Street. And the only thing that event costs us is a little bit of time and printing costs. So we have 8 locations here in our historic district. We do this event every other year. And we activate those upper stories of these historic buildings. And it's exactly what Missy said, to try and pull on those heartstrings, get people to understand, you know, here's a different view and perspective of downtown. And some of them are raw spaces and some of them are completely polished, beautiful apartments you would never expect. I like to use the example that on the last tour, we had an old warehouse that was in a building here in our district. And at one point it was a bottling factory way back in the day. It was a livery stable prior to that. And its last portion of its life it was just a storage unit for our local newspaper. And the building was basically falling apart, huge empty building. We were ready for the loft tour and the owner said, hey, we're selling the newspaper, our local newspaper, and I'm going to sell this part of the property completely. So we had it on the tour. We, kind of showcased that this is a huge amount of potential. We invited the owner to be there, local real estate agents. And by the end of the year, someone who walked through that tour had a complete vision and they turned it into the Chandler Hotel. It's huge investment. It's a boutique hotel, staffless boutique hotel. So you just never know, by even just activating those spaces, getting a few volunteers together. It's a fundraiser for our event too, because we sell tickets, trying to engage those spaces and get people to understand why they're significant, just like Missy said, is really important too.
It sounds like we could do a whole session on historic preservation, doesn't it? And the politics of historic preservation. Just to let everyone know that Indiana Main Street in Okra has a strong working relationship with with several preservation groups around the state of Indiana that can help with that. And Indiana Landmarks is the main one right now. Our new Southeast Community Liaison, Jared Holbrook, who's now going through a lot of trainings and getting out as much as he can. He spent 9 years with Indiana Landmarks prior to coming to Okra, and he's a great resource too, and he can assist in other areas. He has a real heart for historic preservation. We do have one question here that we need to address that came back from Carrie at Main Street Pendleton, and that is, what does the relationship between your organizations and your Chamber of Commerce look like? I get varied answers from around the state, so I'm curious to see where you're at with that. Start with Missy. You want to?
Oh, okay. Yeah, like I had said prior, our Chamber of Commerce has gone through 3 different directors since I have been here, and I started in 2020. So it's just constantly educating the chamber on what we do, and that we're not a threat to them. I think it helps whenever I say we're not a membership organization. They are a membership organization, and so they cater to those members. And I say we cater to everyone in our district, and we work on sponsorships, but not memberships. So, and if you're not a sponsor, we still, if you're in our district, we include you. So I think it's just important to constantly convey to them what our role in the Main Street is, and then also helping to, connect them with businesses. We have this agreement. The last director and I've got to establish it with the new director that just came on board, but when they get a new business contact within our district, then they let us know, and vice versa. And so we're constantly sharing that information and creating that relationship. So I'm not in competition with the chamber. I think they do some valuable things for businesses. They can offer expertise in classes that I cannot as a Main Street organization, just because of time availability. And then also, they have resources that I don't have. And so I think it's just important to keep developing that relationship for the benefit of the businesses in the district.
Yeah, there was a time about 10 years ago now where, on the theme of partnerships and things, where the Madison Main Street program was at a point with their budget where they had to choose pay the director or pay rent. And that put a lot of stress on what, understanding the mission and vision of the Madison Main Street program at that time, and having board members really push on that and stick to that to try and help rebuild the program. And one of the things from a partnership that happened is the local Chamber of Commerce let us have an office in their building. So that was a huge gift. We were there for a while. We were there for over 10 years, like I said. And when I assumed this position too, we were still in that office and eventually started paying rent. And so that was a great partnership with them. And I think that really helped revive our Main Street program. We had ups and downs just like the businesses do and the economy did. So having that partnership, just like Missy said, with the chamber director, they were relying on each other about, hey, I heard this, like there's a new business here. I want to share this with you. This is in your district. Or, they don't have the ability to be a member right now, but maybe they can volunteer with you. So there was a lot of back and forth, and it was really helpful. Since then, we've moved on and we have our own office now, but we still have a great relationship with our chamber. It still relies on that same kind of communication. Madison has a geographical divide. We have the hilltop, and then we have our downtown. So we have a major hill in between half of our community. So a lot of times I rely on the chamber as that arm that reaches outside of my district. I can say, hey, I'm looking for this from a sponsor or something. Who would you suggest I talk to? Or do you have a contact at that company? And so it's been really helpful. And they didn't have a director for a while, and I think it definitely impacted our community. So yeah, there's no competition there. Great communication is always key. And same with like our visitors bureau. Also, it kind of goes back and forth.
Neil, I can't hear you. Are you?
Maybe I should unmute my microphone at this point. Christine has a question. Do you have any literature or books that you would recommend that has helped you at your job, preservation, promoting downtown, or whatever relates to our talk today? And maybe some of you others, anyone else that's on the chat, if you have something specific, put it in the chat and we can share it afterwards to everybody too. But Austin, do you have?
Yeah, two things. One, the point on the National Main Street website. That's been so helpful, even when there's, difficulties between partnerships, whether it's a business or a sponsorship, like just a quick search in the point, just a few keywords, kind of has helped me, and people link articles there all the time. Another great resource, right now I'm in the middle of the Main Street certification, to be Main Street certified with National Main Street. And I highly recommend those courses, even if your Main Street program can't put you through the entire certification to be, the full, I can't even think of it right now, my brain is done. I'm sorry. But you can still sign up for courses individually that may pertain to this. And they have scholarships frequently too. So I would say definitely check out the Point and definitely check out the Main Street certification on the national website. Both of those have been super helpful.
Let's see, books. I don't have time to read books. Do you have time to read books?
I utilize LinkedIn a lot, and I look at those organizations such as National Main Street that may have that information too, and I read a lot of those articles personally. But
I read a lot of magazine articles. I recently got some magazines from MyBor that has some great placemaking articles in it. So that might be somewhere you can look. But yeah, I read a lot of maybe articles online that I run across. Revitalize or Die. I really like that guy. I like some of the stuff that he puts out there. I join a lot of Facebook groups. Downtown Happy Hour is one that I've joined, and just glean a lot of articles off of that. That posters put on that. So mainly just online articles or magazine articles is what I look to.
Austin's sharing several here, and she has also listed her contact information in the chat. So if you're looking at that. Any other questions from the group? Remind you, if some of you decided late, that just place those in the chat, your questions, and we'll answer those as eloquently as we can at this point. I think Austin and Missy, and I've been in your community several times, and I appreciate the work you have done there. And it's not always easy, and sometimes you do have some conflict. How do you work through? I know we talked about different organizations and conflict management. Do you ignore it? Do you face it head on? Do you invite them to your meetings? What are some probably short-term things you can do to work through conflict?
I would love to answer this question.
Great.
It's very timely. We have a conflict that's happening right now between several businesses, actually. And they have said, well, Main Street, what are you going to do about it? It's time. Something has to happen. Turning away and, hoping it fixes itself has not resolved the issue. What are you going to do about it? And, you never want someone to tell you that. I have to remind them I'm not the Main Street police, and I can't tell someone what to do. And a few things that we've done so far and what we hope to do is we've tried to invite the specific business to our office to have a mediated conversation 6 times. That has not worked. So again, not giving attention to any of the conflict has been another route we've gone. And the third route we're going right now is we're going to pump out there all the good things that these other people are doing. So we're really going to try and, I guess, reward and highlight those people that are taking the high road and trying to just keep business as business, that really invest in the community and are good partners. So it's hard because with conflict, you have to stay neutral. Main Street, we have to stay neutral. Sometimes turning a blind eye does not solve it, but to try and have some kind of action and keep everything even, we've said that we will try and start praising some of those businesses a little bit more as far as, getting testimonies about why they have business here and things like that. So there's several different ways, but I highly suggest to stay out of it.
Okay. When we look at, I'm sorry, go ahead, Missy. Sorry.
That's okay. The only conflict we've had as a Main Street organization is with businesses outside of our district that are upset. Community can get upset that we're not promoting businesses outside our district. And again, I just go to I'm constantly educating on why strengthening the heart of your community benefits your entire community. So with that, I don't really engage. I just continue to put out that education and information on why Main Streets work in a district and why that helps everyone in the community. So that's really the only conflict we've had.
We, Kim, Kim Stevens made the comment here too, is that they have monthly merchants voice call on the second Thursday of the month and in person merchants voice meetings on the fourth Thursday. This tends to help with keeping the communications open and working through the conflicts. And I think always communication is the best course of action. As I look at as I look at the attendance on this, we have some new Main Street directors, we have some newer Main Streets, and as community affairs director working with the community liaisons, we're a lot of times the first contact point for these people, for these organizations that want to become Main Streets. We give them advice all the time on who's the first person to contact. So if you're a new organization, who's the most important group or person that you need to engage with in the beginning to be able to build your organization? Who's the most important point of support?
For us, it's just going back with those relations, just the groups that failed. Definitely your mayor, your city council members, your planning department, just the city in general, just creating those relationships. Like I said, we get funding with our RDC. I'm creating relationships with them. So I just really feel like if you don't have your city's support, then it's a really difficult road. So just constantly educating them and creating those relationships and putting out there why Main Streets are important is what I feel is vital.
I agree. Yeah, it's your city, and we've found a lot of great partnerships within our sponsors and donors too. If they're giving us funding, for our ask like that, then they obviously want it for a reason. And we had one major sponsor, we asked them, why do you continue to sponsor us? Like, what else do you want to see? And they're like, we want places for our employees to go. So getting their feedback and having a good communication line with them has been really helpful. So yeah, definitely your city and definitely your supporting sponsors. Those are great places to get started too.
Well, we're down to our last 5 minutes. So any insights from either of the two of you? You've done a great job of personalizing this and letting people, I think, answering the questions thoroughly. So, but anything you want to add that would help other Main Street organizations?
For me, one thing that I wrote down was, helping other organizations. Yesterday, we had a big announcement in our downtown about our county receiving the Indiana Chamber Award. And so the Boone EDC reached out to me and said, hey, I'm needing high top tables. I'm needing a PA system. I'm needing chairs. Are these things that you have access to that we could utilize for this ceremony announcement? And so, yeah, I have, because we do events, I have collected event items. So yes, I do have a PA system you could borrow. Yes, I do have cocktail tables you could borrow and tablecloths. So just being able to offer those things, if you do have event equipment, just kind of helps strengthen that your commitment to them, and then strengthen that association that they can come to you if they have things to share. So that was just one thing that I wrote down. That also a business. One of the downtown businesses was hosting a large company, and they part of the event space is outside. And so I could offer my outdoor heaters to them. And so I went over, set up my outdoor heaters, turned them on. And then after the event, I went over to collect them and put them back in our storage facility. And I actually was able to talk to somebody with the company there. And I told them who I was and why I had brought the heaters over. They really appreciated it. And they've become a sponsor because of that. So, that's ways that you can create those relationships with your businesses if they need something, and then maybe get an edge in there on a sponsor. So.
In our last 2.5 minutes here, do you have anything to add, Austin, or anything that wasn't covered?
I don't. Just hang in there. And someone once told me that nonprofit is all about relationships. So keeping those good partnerships, keeping those people, on your board at times, keeping them engaged on your committees really helps, because while we all might not have time to communicate everything that we're doing, one of those other folks that are investing their time with you and with the program, that they can help relay the message and communicate out what you're doing. So just hang in there and keep up those partnerships and relationships and keep it up. Yeah.
Michelle just finished up that they've created a downtown merchants text group and has increased both communication, positive support among the businesses. So I appreciate both of your times today. I know you being able to prep for today and taking busy time out of your busy schedules to present to the other groups. So thank you very much. Abby will follow up with everyone. This is recorded, so you'll be able to watch this over and over again, hopefully, and we appreciate your participation today. Thank you, everyone.